Let's tackle another user story. This time, we would like to send reminders to donors as their donation due dates approach, rather this time when the due date is today. The acceptance criteria is that given a list of donations with the due date of today and the status is unpaid, and at 9 a.m. every day, send that reminder out. Let's see how we can do that. Looking at the gift transactions object, what we're looking at is the due date field. So whenever the due date is set to today and the status is unpaid, then we need at 9 a.m. every day that every one of those donors get notified to as a reminder to make their donation. So let's go ahead to setup and flows, starting a new flow, and we'll go with a schedule triggered flow, starting from scratch, schedule triggered flow. We will need to give it a schedule. When do we need this to run? I would like this to start running as of today or probably tomorrow, doesn't matter, at 9 a.m. And the time that you set here is the time that is respecting the time zone of the company or the org. So it says here, set the start date and time in your org's time zone. So how do you know your org's time zone? You can find this from setup, and you can search for company information on whatever time zone, company information, whatever time zone we have set in here, that's the time zone that this scheduled flow will run at. So this is the time zone. And I would like this to run on daily basis at 9 a.m. Now we have two options here under choose object. You can choose an object or you can just leave it blank. If you leave it blank, then this flow is just going to run here one time as expected. That's fine. But if you select an object, this object has a list of records. What the scheduled flow is going to do is that it's going to apply whatever logic we have down here to one record, and then it's going to apply it to the second record, and then it's going to apply it to the third record. So it's gonna pick up the first record, go through the logic, and then go back and go take the second record and go through the logic, and then the third record and go through the logic. It's behaving like a loop, and you don't have to worry about bulkifying things into one collection and then making an update or a create. The scheduled flow is going to take care of this. So whenever you build a scheduled triggered flow, assume that you are applying this to only one record. I know we're not applying it to one record, we're applying it to multiple, but we're building as if it were only one record, and then the flow is going to do the bulkifying for us. So we're going to select the object. In this case, we need gift transaction, where the status equals unpaid. So the flow is going to go through the first, every record in the gift transaction that meets these conditions, apply the logic, and then just repeat. The second thing is the due date. So we need the due date to be today. And here we don't have access to the global variable flow to access the current date. And if we were to create a formula, a resource formula in the flow, to just give us today's date, like today, something like this, and use it here, we just can't access this formula in the entry conditions. So the workaround here, I'm just going to delete this, and I'll save this for a second, send reminders. The workaround is to create that formula at the object level instead, and it has to be a checkbox. So let's go ahead to the object, edit object. Interestingly, you can access the a formula and that returns the checkbox here. You might want to try like different data types as well. So let's create a new formula, and let's say the view today. And I like to do this way of naming things. This is a checkbox. And this is a formula that we need to use to just check if the due date is today. Something that we typically do in the flow, but we can't because we can't, then we're just doing it outside. So what we're doing is the transaction due date, does it equal today? You can find today here. As you get comfortable with this, you can type things down yourself. And so this is going to return true if the due date is today. It's going to return false if it's not. Okay, now we can like it's not going to show up just yet until we refresh the page. Now let's add that second condition. Due date is today equals true. So if this returns true, it means the due date is today. And what we need this to do is to send an email. We've looked at send email before, so I'll just set this up quickly. We need the body to be just the word reminder, and the recipient list that will be the global variable. Now this is important. We said like this, the schedule flow is running on every record, so we do have access to the global variable record, the $sign and then the keyword record. If you actually select this, it adds the $sign like there, or the triggering gift transaction. It says triggering because it's behaving in a manner that it's looking at only one record. It's taking the first record, applies this send email to, and then just going to take the second record and apply it to. So whatever record is in the current iteration, that's the one that we are referring to here. So we're saying that's the current record that this scheduled flow is running through, and we need to access the donor and email. Maybe we can set this to true. Set this to true. We don't have to for this testing. And we'll say reminder here. Yep. Okay, let's save and activate this. And I was trying this before recording, and one thing you need to know is that if you're doing this scheduled flow for the very first time, like this is the very first scheduled flow in the org, then you want to check the default workflow user, process automation. You can search for process automation settings, and you need to set the default workflow user. Let's test this and show you what I mean. What's happening? Well, like what we should expect to happen is that when we run this, let's first have a test record that we can apply this to. I had this here. I created this test record. You can create a gift transaction where the due date is today and the status is unpaid, so that we can test this on. So if I were to debug and select this particular gift, when this, now that this is activated, tomorrow at 9 a.m. it's going to go through all records, but as part of debugging we only select one record to test this. And I don't want this to run in rollback. I actually want to receive the email, and let's run this. So it has sent the email according to debug logs, but if I were to check here, I don't receive an email. And the reason I don't receive an email is because we don't have a default workflow user set. What does this mean? It means that, you know, like when you go and update a record that triggers a record triggered flow, who is the running user? It's the person, the user that created the record. It's the running user. But now this scheduled flow is going to run tomorrow at 9 a.m. So who is running that scheduled triggered flow? I may have been the one that created it, but I might leave the org and then someone else is an admin. And who is the running user then? The running user is the default workflow user. So we're gonna find whatever user that we know that's currently there in the with the organization, and then we're gonna set that user as the default workflow user. And then now if we debug again on the same record, we are receiving the email.